was the fact that there are now a lot of people in cramped conditions there from a variety of different countries, not all of whom get on. And that, frankly, is a recipe for disaster. But assuming that they do one day get out and about onto the streets of Britain, that doesn't bode well for social cohesion in this country, does it?
Absolutely. Truth be told, that particular situation at Manston Processing Centre in Kent, not the ideal settings for social cohesion, I'm sure you'd agree, Patrick. And I think that it just shows the dangers of having a dysfunctional border security system. And now we have processing systems which are overstretched. Our dysfunctional asylum system does pose a risk to social cohesion in modern day Britain. And I think we have a situation where there are even concerns, not only that there are criminal elements within these processing centres, but there is the possibility that there's also individuals who have already been deported from the UK who are now looking to illegally re-enter the country.
Yes, indeed. One of my main concerns is there was a report from Nigel Farage last night about a lady, a grandmother actually, in fact, and her next-door neighbour, both of whom female, obviously, who found an illegal immigrant or asylum seeker in their house, and then the chap in question decided to make his way into a bedroom, and he had phones on him and was demanding, apparently, a lift to Manchester, I believe it was. My concern with this is, if people now don't feel safe in their own homes in coastal areas like that, then how long is it before people wrongly take matters into their own hands? And that is a further breakdown in social cohesion, isn't it?
Well, that's why I always argue for robust law and order, Patrick, because I don't want people to ultimately resort to taking such matters into their own hands. I think that it's going to be a top priority the top priority for the Home Secretary, Suella Braverman, who has returned to her previous role after a week. And I think that, for example, we need to have the National Crime Agency being given the resources to clamp down on people smuggling infrastructures. And there are also concerns that if illegal migrants are being hosted in hotels in remarkably high numbers, to what extent are they being regulated? Because there are concerns that after a few days that they simply disappear, enter the black economy, where they may return their earnings back to their homelands.
This is the other thing, by the way, can I just interrupt? Because that's a really key point, right? It's a really key point, which is whether or not we had Out Mehmet on from Migration Watch UK earlier, who's got serious concerns going forward about the idea that because of the overflow of migrants that we might be receiving now, some of them might be essentially given letters, almost like day release letters, and told to report back at a particular time. We are seeing people absconding, and a lot of these people, it would seem anyway, just based on anecdotal evidence, are here to operate in the black economy, in the dark economy, the underworld economy, whatever you want to call it. Well, what does that do for social cohesion? Because it drives our economy underground. One would imagine a lot of those areas of that economy are pretty nefarious.
Well, what it does, it fuels modern slavery in our local communities, and it contributes towards labour exploitation. But crucially, we have a situation here. We have high numbers of people illegally entering the country. They've not been subjected to any rigorous assessments or checks, including whether or not they have a previous criminal history, who then are housed in various forms of accommodation, unregulated forms of accommodation, and they may end up disappearing after a few days. And that does pose a fundamental threat to domestic security. And it really shows that if you don't have a robust border security system, you do have people in local communities now who will be very concerned from a public safety perspective.